Welcome to Culture Before Content. Culture Before Content from Music for All and presented by Yamaha. And now, here's your host, David Duarte.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm David Duarte, your host for today's episode of Culture Before Content. We're so glad you could join us here on the Music for All podcast network, and a special thank you to Yamaha, our national presenting sponsor, for their incredible support. At Music for All, and for all of us on our Culture Before Content community, our mission is to create, provide, and expand positively life-changing experiences through music, which I know we all do all the time. All right, so if you're here live, you're here on video, welcome to Facebook Live and YouTube. Please like and share our broadcast if you're tuning in. That would be great. Or even chat up for a second. If you put a comment in, put yourself on the show. Like one of those favorite things I like to do these days is ask a question like, what's the weather like where you're at? Actually, I have to look. It's 77 degrees here in beautiful Vancouver, Washington. But if you want to catch up on the podcast later and listen to them on audio, you can always go for our audio versions on both Apple Podcast and Spotify. So if you like listening on the go or just like listening on as well, just you can find our episodes available typically on Mondays on the Music for All podcast network. And again, they're both on Apple Podcast and Spotify. I love listening on the audio podcast. Our wonderful producer does such a fantastic job of making it sound incredible. All right, so let's talk about why we're here today. Culture. I'm very excited about this. Last week we had Katie and Todd Ebert. I enjoyed chatting with that dynamic duo. They were great. They were amazing, and it was really fun having a conversation between three people. We dove into the art of building a 6 through 12 band curriculum because they had this amazing thing where your feeder is your spouse. And I think that's amazing and a gift. They talked about engaging their students through fun yet rigorous practices and the magic of peer-to-peer teaching. And from his rock bands on the curriculum to conversations about their national performances and them participating as hosts at the National Concert Band Festival at Music for All. They shared their secrets to maintaining passion, excellence, and a strong community vibe in their music program. It was incredible. It was great. I loved it. It's all about keeping the fun alive. All right, so let's get to this week. We have a special guest for you today. You are going to love her. This is Laura Shepard. She is a 2024 CMA, that's the Country Music Association, Foundation Music Teacher of Excellence. She comes to us from Nashville, Tennessee, where she teaches at Donelson Middle School. So please welcome to the show, Mrs. Laura Shepard.
Hi,
Welcome.
thanks for having me. This is exciting. Thanks for having me.
Please. Thanks for having us. Thanks for being on here. You are an amazing dynamo. So why don't you take a moment and tell us where you teach and tell us about you for a second, and then we'll go on to the crazy culture.
Well, I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up just north of Charlotte in Statesville, North Carolina. Have 3 older brothers and mom and dad. Pretty typical childhood, lucky to have that. And then got married, have 2 beautiful kids and a son-in-law. And we live in Tennessee in a little cabin just north of Nashville. And I teach at Donelson Middle School, part of Metro Nashville Public Schools.
Fun secret. I actually used to live in her attendance boundary. It's one of those things where, like Laura and I, although we taught in the same district at one point, we've actually never met because by the time I had got to Nashville, there was that weird thing that happened. I can't remember something happened during that year that we all
We will
started
never
to meet
talk
each
about
other.
No.
No, never going to talk about it. But that's how we got to actually meet each other for the first time, as we started talking online. I remember we've had video chats before. We talked, but Laura is an ultimate dynamo. And so what today I wanted to talk about is those things that build your program that are more on the social side of it. So as I say, every kid in her band program absolutely adores Laura. And you're going to find this out. She's way more personable than I am. But maybe I know. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I made her laugh. That's super sweet.
They made me snort.
I know. Welcome to the show. It's part of that fun. But maybe let's talk about Let's talk about your award. Tell us about your CMA Foundation Music of the Award from last year. How did that come to be?
That was so exciting. I had friends that have filled out the applications for that and worked on it, and they're like, "You should do it. You should do it." And I'm like, "No, that's not what I'm gonna do. That's not my thing. I'm not gonna do that." I had done it one time before and didn't get it, so I just kind of put it out of my mind. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I gave it a shot, and I had a really good friend who had gotten it the year before, and we met, and she coached me through what she did and how she did things, and it, I was lucky to have her on my side, and then got it going and started working on it, and lost it all. It was gone. I called some people and I was like, "Guys, I lost it. I don't know how to recover it. It's all gone. I'm done. Forget it." And they're like, "Nope, you can do it." And so I had a really good cheerleading section help me kind of put myself back together and put it in the format and submitted it, and found out one day that I was chosen. So it's really exciting. I'm very excited about the whole process, and really excited to get to share the story of my kids and my school, because that's I you keep saying dynamo. I'm more like hyperactive 55-year-old, but I love my kids, I love my school, and that's the part I'm really excited about sharing, is who my kids are.
Oh, you young band directors, you guys kill me with all this. You're a dynamo. I don't care who
I'm
you are.
older than you. I'm older than you, David.
You're not older than me. I'm actually older than you, Laura Shepherd. Did you not know that? But
Okay,
enough of me.
you win.
Okay. All right. So you talked about your kids. So let's talk about your kids. So, yeah, I mean, as always, our programs are kind of a reflection of what we do. So maybe talk a little bit about Donelson Middle School, maybe like what the area is like for people, like, what kind of kids you service, how big the school is. Talk about your school and your kids for just a minute.
Well, the school is about 430, 450 kids. It is a very mixed kind of bag of kids. Most of the kids, I would say, I hate to categorize anything, but I would say they're like just your middle class everyday kid. But we do have some that are bused from different areas of the city. We are a Title I school. Most of the kids, if you had to like say free and reduced lunch or how we were funded, most of the kids would qualify for free and reduced lunch. They are, working class people, and just a lot of single parent families, and a lot of kids that are being raised by someone that's not their biological parent. And
All right.
so that's really something that I've had to learn a lot about. It was in my first school, I came across that situation a little bit. In my second school where I worked, that wasn't really much of an issue to talk about. But these kids they're living a life. They've lived more in 10 years than I've lived in 55, some of them. So there are some sad stories, and there are some triumphant stories, and it's a great place to be, though, I tell you.
So what would you say if your kids were to talk about Laura Shepherd? What would they say?
Uh-oh. It would depend on who you would ask. My 8th graders, I'm an open book. I am an open book. They know what I like, what I don't like, what I like to wear, what I don't like to wear. They know about my pets. They know about my family. They ask me about Mr. Barry. When's Mr. Barry coming back to see us? That's my husband. So they know me pretty well, and they're like, "Yeah, she's all right. She's pretty cool. She would help us out if we
Oh,
need it."
there's
And
a
oh,
puppy
there's
now.
Dolly. So they know they know me. They know a lot of my likes and dislikes. And my 7th graders right now probably are not all that happy with me because I'm trying. Oh, my earbud just fell out. I'm pushing them a little bit right now with some content, and um they're pushing back on, it's hard, it's hard. And then my 6th graders, bless their hearts, they don't know what in the world they've gotten into. They have no idea. And I'm like, "Look, I'm going to ask you to do some crazy things. I'm going to ask you to, sit up straight. I'm going to ask you to make funny noises. I'm going to ask you to blow up your belly with air." And they just go, "Okay." And they just look at me and trust me. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that they trust me
Well,
with
it's
whatever it
funny you
is. They
say
trust
that.
me.
because trust is something that happens over time. And so, how long have you been teaching at Donelson?
This is year 9.
Wow.
Year 9.
'Cause
The
and
best story about that, and I'm sorry if I spoke over you,
no, go
but,
ahead.
when I got there, I had met Nola Jones and had an interview with her and my principal, and we talked, and they were like, "Well, we've been through quite a few directors," and I'm thinking it was like 4 directors in 5 years. It
Mhm.
might be 5 directors in 4 years, but it was just one after the other, and you can't build consistency, you can't build a relationship with a school or kids doing that. And I went in and I knew it was going to be tough. I knew what I had signed up for. And I will never forget this little guy. And he was in 7th grade. He's a trumpet player. And he was the best kid. And I told him, I said, guys, I need you to know that I've made a commitment. And come next year, I'll be standing right here on the first day of school. When you get off the bus, I'll be right here. And this little guy named Alex looked at me and he goes, "That's what they all said." And I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, just stab me." And the first day of school the next year, I went to the bus lot to find Alex. And I was like, "Hey, Alex, I told you I'd be here. And here I am, buddy." And he's like, "Okay, you gonna be here next year?" I said, "Well, you're not because you're going to high school. But yeah, I'll be here." So it was that was a moment, They want somebody to be consistent and be there for them. So I was and I have been. So
Yeah, and so you've also have a unique perspective. You've been there for long. Is your school 7-8, 6-7-8? I forgot to ask that
we
question.
were 5-8, and then they've changed it in the past couple of years. They moved the 5th graders back to elementary school, and so now we're just 6-8,
Yeah, and so for those of
which
you who don't,
I like better.
Metro Nashville is one of the, it's Davidson County, which is Metro Nashville,
Mhm.
which is all schools. There's one district. And so it's, it's 80 plus thousand. I've lost track of how many thousand. It was
A
88,000 when I
bunch.
got there. Yeah, it's a lot. And there's 100 and I don't know, 160 plus schools. And you never really get to know everybody because I think you guys are separated into clusters. And so, you get to know that. So maybe talk about some of the things that you've noticed in your 9 years with the kids, like how, you've talked about how it was first when you got there. Expectations were, a band director isn't going to stay, but now the expectation probably is you're going to be there. But how, you've got through the COVID situation and so maybe talk about some of the changes that have happened in your 9 years.
The biggest thing probably is the kids. Some of the kids are a little harder to reach at times. They don't want to trust that quickly. They're a little harder to read at times. I mean, there are a few that are just open arms and right there and ready to work and ready to learn. But a few are a little more cautious. And in the past, they seem to all be a little more willing to jump in and learn and try, even if it was something like they're like, "I can't do that." And I'm like, "Have you ever tried?" And some of them are less willing to try. So many of them are attached to their computer or attached to their phone or to a gaming system or whatever that it's scary for them to step away. The ones that I convinced to step away, realize, oh, wow, I can do this. But that would probably be some of the toughest situations that I've dealt with is just learning and having to work harder to get them to trust me. So
Yeah, but it seems like that trust is definitely there. So like, maybe when they come in as sixth graders, how long do you feel like it takes to win over your classroom? Is it a short time? Does it take all year? How do you how well is it?
it depends on the kid. I've got a few right now who are hook, line, sinker. They're ready to go. They're like, "Can we do this? Can we do this?" And I got a few others that are like, "Girl, you want me to what?" And they look at me real funny, and I'm like, "No, really, really, I do want you to do this. I want you to breathe. I want you to put your hand on your belly, and I want you to take in air." And I even show them, I demonstrate it, and all kinds of crazy things. And that it really does depend on the kid. But by Christmas time, usually I got a pretty good hook in them. So they're
Well, it's,
fun to have
yeah,
around, but it's tough.
it sounds like your kids are very, there's a lot of uniqueness in your community. And so like
Hmm.
you've got a very diverse population. So how
Hmm.
do you go about celebrating some of that uniqueness from your kids? I mean, do you always approach each day the same way? Is it band focused or is it kind of crazy for the kids to walk in the
I
door?
I try to be organized and focused, and and a routine, because as wild as middle schoolers are, they really do like routine. They like knowing what's going to happen. And I actually started something new this year, and I found this little deck of cards of all places at the Dollar Tree, and it's just questions, and every day I pull a question, and we've been doing question of the day, or topic of the day, and it ranges from, one day they wanted to know, what is your superpower? If you had a superpower, what would you want it to be? Another day was, if you could move anywhere and live any part of the world, where would you go? And I try to always tell them, what I would do or what I would think. And they're like, sometimes, like the one day I told them, I said, "Oh, if I could be a superhero, I'd be Mary Poppins." And they're like, "You realize that's not a superhero?" I said, "Not to you, but it is to me." And some of the kids didn't know who Mary Poppins was, so I'm aging myself a little bit. But that's helped a lot. And then we start right in. We go in 8th grade. We go in with warm ups and trying to. Right now, we're really trying to figure where they are musically, because from a I don't know about you guys, but from a grade 2 to a grade 3 is a big jump in literature. And threes, they're like, "God, this is hard." And twos, they're like, "Can you give us something harder?" I'm like, "Guys, give me a break. You got to give me something here." So 8th grade, we're really working on things like that. 7th grade, they're getting into the clarinets are going over the break. They're getting in harmonic pitches. Trumpet, the brass is starting to go up higher. The flutes are like, "You want me to play that? No, we don't play notes that low." So that kind of thing is going on with them. And then 6th grade, bless their heart, they're just making mouthpiece sounds right now. Is about it.
Well,
So,
also that also sounds like, your classroom has got to be a safe space for your kids.
definitely, definitely.
And so, I always say the emotional component that we've had to deal with kids these last few years has
Mhm,
been different. Like, I like you said, they're attached to their devices a little bit, probably harder
mhm.
than they ever used to be. Do you have any strategies for breaking that down? I mean, what have anything that's worked for you to?
Mm, from the start, I let them know that these are my 4 walls, and what happens in my 4 walls can stay in my 4 walls, and that I will help them through anything they need helping through. Um, you have to let them feel safe before they're gonna trust you, and that we've talked a lot about trust. And I tell them, I spend more time awake during the day in these 4 walls than I do in my own house. And, this is a special place to me. I need you to know this is a special place for you. We've talked this year a lot about being positive and not being negative. Even kids that are friends, how they'll pick with each other, or they'll
Yeah,
call each
yeah.
other names, or they'll be kids. But I'm like, guys, but it's not nice. It's not respectable. And you have to be kind to one another. You have to be positive. We're not going to be grumpy. And they were like, "Does that mean you too?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And so we've worked a lot on being positive and being kind. I tell them all the time, I do not care what kind of musician you are. If you are not a nice person to be around, then I failed. If you can't understand that I want you to be a good person and have a good heart, I failed. Because I think that's obviously more important than most anything else for me anyway, that they are kind to one another and accepting of one another. And for the most part, they really are. We have the luck of having a self-contained exceptional children's class in our school. And I'm so lucky that my daughter works in that classroom as a paraprofessional. And so I get to know those kids a little more and get to hang out with them, and they feel safe coming in my room too. And there's one fella, it is the best thing ever. And the other teachers are mortified and they get so nervous when it happens. But one little guy's favorite place is my room. And he is somewhat nonverbal. He struggles to communicate. And when he gets frustrated, he can, pinch or pull hair or even bite sometimes with his paraprofessionals. And he loves my room. So last year, the kids in my 8th grade bought him a toy trumpet. So when he came to the room, he would have a trumpet to play. Well, he learned real fast. It was a toy. He wanted nothing to do with it. And so we found another trumpet that we were like, okay, if something happens to this trumpet, we'll be okay. Ian, the repair guy, might get mad at us, but it'll be okay. And so we kind of left it where we knew it could be if he would come running in. Well, he has started making appearances this year in the 7th grade class. And these kids did not have any idea what was going on the first time he showed up, because I hadn't forgotten, but I just not had prepped them for it. And he pops right in and he goes straight for a kid's horn and straight for that mouthpiece. And I was like, oh no. So we had a conversation, and they were so good with him and so curious and wanted to know how they could talk to him and what they could say to him. And I'm like, he's just a kid, just like you. And they did not, they were at first, they were kind of scared. They were like, well, we don't want to hurt him. And I'm like, well, it's going to be fine. I said, let's do this. So we made a plan. And that little guy came busting in the room the other day, and one of my trumpet players yells, "Mouthpiece!" And they all took their mouthpiece off really quick and put them in their pockets. He goes straight for the bass drum, and he gets a mallet and he just starts banging away on the bass drum. And I'm like, I really don't think you're gonna break it. And his assistant was like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, he's gonna be fine. So all of a sudden he starts counting out loud. And many of the kids that have been with him for a long time had never heard him say anything. And so they start counting with him. And then he got done, and I said, okay, we got to go now. It's time for you to go back to class. And I said, can I have the mallet? Can I have the stick? And he gave it to me. And when he left, the kids were like, that was fun. That was cool. So they're very accepting kids. And I like to think that part of their interaction with him in that classroom is going to help them interact with people that are differently abled, and when they get older, or even when they're in high school, or if they meet another kid at our school. So that's a good story.
Oh, I think that's amazing. I think promoting that environment where everyone's welcome and inclusive does not matter. Like I said, I love bringing kids in the classroom. I don't care. I have a very open door policy where I would love, you never know when you're going to capture a kid forever, or you never know
Mhm.
when you've made that one moment where you have changed a child's life, and all for the better. And for the sake of, it's for the sake of music is the key to opening up this wonderful world for many of our kids.
Mhm.
And so that leads me to my next question, because like you said it before. Oh yeah, I want to say this too, because sometimes we all say things, and a big shout out to Ian, the repair guy, because Metro Nashville has an amazing system where the repair guy works for the district. So it's, oh, look at that, you got a thumbs up. Big shout out to Ian. Ian's does a great show, but Metro Nashville, the district, does a great job of providing a service where you get to be able to turn your instruments in. You're not necessarily finding a music store to do that. So that's
Mhm.
great. But maybe one of the things that I thought popped in my mind was like anxiety of kids, and how you handle some of those things. Because as you're because you said you're pushing your kids' boundaries this year. The first thing that popped in my head was like, I've come across kids where anxiety is becoming more prevalent. How do you capture if you've got these upward expectations for your kids, have you run
Mhm.
into anything about anxiety? Have you found some ways to conquer it with the kids?
The biggest thing right now with one little girl I have in 7th grade, and she's new to me. And so she hasn't quite figured me out yet. But I'm just like, okay, let's do this. And she looked at me one day when we were going down the road and just playing a note. And she goes, mm. And I let it go. I wasn't going to force the situation, so I just let it go. And a couple days later, she did it, and I was like, "That was so good." I just try to praise every moment where I see something like that and see an improvement. But some of the kids one on one too. I told you I'm an open book. I let them know that I get terrified of things. I get scared of things when teachers get what we call the Sunday scaries. When it's time to get ready to go back to school on Monday, we get all nervous inside, and it's a normal feeling. It's natural. We all have them, whether we want to, you know, sorry, that just won't stay in my ear. Whether we want to believe it or not, we all do have that anxiety. And I let them know it's normal, it's natural.
Yeah, it's funny. I always have that dream every year. It does it without fail that like I'm talking and teaching and 0% of the kids are paying attention. And it's not it's a dream. And it's not that they're openly defiant. It's just like that nothing's going on. And it's kind and it is. I like that Sunday scaries because well, today is Sunday after all.
Yeah.
And some kids, some of us kids, sorry, some of us are going back to work this week. Some are going back last week or this tomorrow might be the first day of school for many of us.
They're going into
And
week
so
4. Woo.
oh my goodness. I'm going into
Yeah.
I am into teacher meeting week. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and just getting back to that to the process. So I feel like your teacher. I feel like your students see you as a role model. And so, you know, when your kids walk in that door, what is Laura? Do you have any special go-tos? Like maybe you've got this thing planned out and maybe you have to change. How do you keep your positive attitude so amazing all the time?
I I've tried like if I have a guest come in, like I have a actual student teacher this semester, which is going to be fun. Um, so I like to tell them I know something about everybody in this classroom. I know something. I might not know a lot, but I try to find that one thing. And like I know this little girl's mom is a cook and she likes things really,
Mhm.
really spicy. And I'm like, so we talk about what she eats that's spicy food. And I'm like, girl, I'm a wimp. I can't do that spicy stuff. So I try to find that one thing that I know we can talk about. And some of them have nicknames. Um, it just because for some reason or another, they ended up with a nickname. I know good and well when Alex opens that door, he's gonna jump down those 4 steps, and I'm like, "Nope," and he goes right I don't even tell him anymore. He jumps, and he turns right back around, walks up, and he walks right down them. So, I try to find that one thing about them, and I just I just try to know them as people, not just as coming in my room and you play a clarinet for, 60, 70 minutes, but you're a kid that likes to do this and you're a kid that likes to do that. And you're the kid that come on, girl, we got to get that cast off. Come on, let's go. We know you broke your foot, but we got to get it. We got to get healed up. When's it coming off? I just try to talk to them and be a real person with them because some of these kids don't have that. Some of these
Well, that's
kids don't have a person, and it's sad.
well, well, don't you think that our classrooms sometimes are there? They need that norm of our place to be that because
Yes.
it might not be something that they have in their life, but they have it at school. So that expectation of band being that normal place is a part of it.
Hmm.
Um, and
Much,
so,
yeah.
like, go ahead.
I think about some of my kids who come from some really, really tough, tough backgrounds. And I tell my assistant principal all the time, I don't know if I could survive in that environment. And I don't know how they do. But when they come to my room, I want them to know they can do this, this, and this, and they're important, and that I care about them. And if they need a snack, they know where it is. If they need something at the end of the day to take home for their little brother, they know where it is. Um, because so many of them don't have a person. So many of them in other classes feel like they have to be a certain persona. They have to put on airs and they have to be tough or they have to be, it's not cool to be smart or cool to be good at something unless it's, I don't know. Um, but they have to put on personas. And I try very hard to be in a place where they can be whoever and whatever they want to be in those 4 walls. I
Well,
learn a lot from them. I do. I learn a lot from them, and they like to pick on me because they know I don't technology well, and they will be like, "Girl, let me help you." I'm like, "Okay, go fix this." Or I'll just hand them my phone sometimes and go, "I can't make it stop. Do this." Or the time will be messed up, or and I know who's gonna fix it for me when she's coming to class. So it's I try to be very real with them.
well,
That's
I
important to
said I
me.
think that mutual respect is huge. And do you find that some of your students act different for you? Like you might find, like
Oh,
I always, like
absolutely.
like you.
Absolutely.
I hate, that you've created these, I don't say monsters, not there, but you've created this dynamo of a person that might be the only place that might be the only place where they're successful, but that's okay because it might be teaching them how to be more of a dynamic person in other classes. Because I have found that sometimes I have to go get to know the kids outside of the classroom and then try to see
Exactly.
if I can get some of those skills to transfer over.
We have a program at school where you can go in, and if you have a problem with someone, you have a conference with them. And so last year, a teacher asked me to come in and be like the moderator of the conference between her and a kid. And I was scared to death because I know that kid well enough and she knows me well enough. I don't know that teacher as well, but that the student and the teacher really struggled with personality clashes and stuff, and I was absolutely terrified. There was another adult in there that is in charge of that program, so he was able to kinda steer us a little bit if I needed help, but, and a lot of it had to do with the people that were in the classroom with my student, and they're not in my classroom. They're not band students, and so she acts a different way around them, and it's it's sometimes scary too. We have a program that if a kid has a specific need, they can pick a person in the school to be like their person who they go to if they just need to cool down or they're feeling overwhelmed. And that's a lot of responsibility sometimes. And it's kind of scary on the one side, and on the other side, you're flattered by it because you want to be able to help that kid, but you're like, can I do that? Can I do enough? Can I be enough for that kid? So, but definitely, and I know kids who will run to that PE teacher and do exactly what he says, but they're going to climb the walls in math. So it's true. It really is. They act one way, one place, and one way another.
And so, like, I was thinking to myself, like, so you've got you said you like to keep things in a norm and an order. How do you foster that, as your expectations go up? How do you help? What are some of your secrets to getting your kids engaged in your processes? Do you have any go-tos, like behavior wise, expectation wise? How do you help push your kids for?
I do have, as far as like our procedures in our classroom, I do have like guidelines of what I expect for them. I do expect them. We have live school, and live school is a way of rewarding kids points, and they can turn in those points for like treats of some sort. And they know every day they are to be respectful, they're to be responsible, they're to be resourceful. And there's another one which I can't remember right this minute, and I'm sorry I can't remember it. But they have to know every day there are guidelines and they have to follow those 4 things. And that's school wide. And they know if I see them somewhere in the school and they're not following one of those 4 things, they're in a way I'm going to be disappointed because I know they know how to do those things. We keep those posted. Then they also know that what I expect out of them when they're in the classroom is also posted. This is how we come in the classroom. This is what I expect out of you when you get here. Go back to that positivity and kindness thing. No, we are not using our ugly words. We are not using mean words. We are being kind to one another. Playing and joking is one thing, but it can go too far. That kind of thing. It's all very much outlined. And my 8th graders definitely know it by now. My 7th graders know it pretty well, and my 6th graders are just learning it. But they know I'm not going to ask them to do something that I'm not going to do myself. I'm not going to ask them to act a way that I'm not going to act myself. I try to get them to understand that. And, every once in a while, we all have bad days. I said, we all have bad days. We all get grumpy, but we got to find our way out. And we do most of the time find our way out of it. Sometimes it takes
How
a little
does
time, but we find our way out.
I'm sure Laura Shepherd has had a bad day at school, and then how have you pulled yourself out of a bad day? Because all I see you always is smiling and happy, but you've got to have some like secret, like if you're not feeling it,
Um,
maybe
I have an incredible support system at my house, uh, with my family, my girls, my husband, my dog. I'm not kidding when I tell you. I told y'all the other day, I'm
oh
obsessed with my dog. And it's really, really funny how she came about because in 2020, obviously it was there
oh
she is. Hey, Dolly. In 2020, it was really rough. Everything was bad and tough, and school was tough, and ugh. And then we lost our dog. I'd had a dog for 17 years. She was the best dog ever. Her
Mm.
was the first dog we'd ever had as a family. And we lost her. And I was like, okay, but one day I want to get another dog. One day I want to get another dog. And my neighbors had been to Louisiana and found a mama and 8 puppies during the middle of a hurricane. Well, they rescued them. The mama dog stayed in Louisiana with uh, a friend. The puppies all came back to North Carolina. Sorry, I live in Tennessee now. They came back to Tennessee and they lived across the street, and they all got spoken for. But of course, I would walk over for puppy time, and I would play with the puppies. Well, I get a picture one day, and my neighbor said the lady that was going to take this one is not able to take her. Would you like a puppy? And I was like, oh, yeah. I text my husband, and all I said was, can I have a puppy? And he texts back, yes. I tell you what, my fifth graders, that when we still had fifth grade, they thought I had lost my mind. I was hooping and hollering. We were outside, and I was like, guess what, y'all? I'm getting a puppy. I'm showing them all my phone. Look, I'm getting this puppy. And I was so excited. And she grounded me then. When that year was the hardest year back with kids. Oh my goodness. And I put everything I had when I came home into her. And that she was my saving grace then. But as far as that support system now, I still have her, and she is still a mess. And I can't say enough about my family and my girls and my husband. He's a major support. He gets it. He knows what I do and what I pour into it. But the other thing that really keeps me going is my community of friends that I have built here in Tennessee that are band directors and that work in National Metro schools.
Yeah, maybe talk
I have
about
a
that.
it's
You know,
incredible. It's incredible.
talk about the relationships you have with some of the current directors and maybe the current directors in your area, but talk about that support system that you've created.
I out of nowhere one day decided, but I've told you I don't do technology well, but I out of nowhere one day
She's not
created
lying,
this.
audience. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, my daughter set up all this for me today. Um, Out of nowhere, I just text about 3 band directors at the same time. And I said, "Hey," and I asked a question and they answered it. And then somebody else asked a question. Well, then we started adding people to it, and we added more and we added more. And right now, I have a text thread that runs with 15 different band directors that are all women. Like to shout out women band directors.
Mm.
They are incredible. I am the mama of the bunch. I'm the old one. And the fun thing about that is my daughter also teaches in Metro Nashville. She teaches at Rose Park Middle School. Shout out Titans. And she is the youngest in the group. And it's fun that there are people in every stage of their career and every stage of what they're learning and how they're teaching. And it is incredible the amount of support that we give each other. And not only those people, I definitely cannot say just to those people, but um our coach, we have a what's called a music coach, Susan Waters, and I'm sure a lot of you know Susan. She's amazing. And if we have problems or questions, we ask her. She's right back with us, helping us figure out how to do something or teaching us how to do something, trying to pair us up to help each other. She is a fabulous coach. She is a fabulous band director, but I'm telling you, she's a great coach for all of us as well. But I love the high school people. I love the high school guys. I don't want to do their job, but love the high school guys. I love, since I moved here, have learned a lot about different cultures in band programs and have gained so much respect. One of my favorite people was your guest is Johnny Croft.
Oh,
Um,
Johnny he just makes me laugh every time I talk. He is so special.
he is the GOAT. I respect him so much. And, other people that are in the system, we talked that when you and I talked the other day, you hear about this program and they're up here and they're great and they do this and they do this. And then there's this program and they have this kind of budget and they have this and they have this. I'm telling you, this is a really unique place because a lot of times we don't have the budgets and we don't have certain things that other of these notable programs have, but we have great kids. We have good support. Um, it's not always easy. No, absolutely not. Do not think it is always, you know, rainbows and unicorns and puppies and candy corn. It's not. It's hard. It's very hard. Um, but these people that are here love these kids and work so hard to give them the music education that they deserve. I'm really, really proud to be a Metro Nashville band director. It's very different than anything I've ever done, but I'm very happy doing it.
Yeah, big shout out to a lot of people you mentioned today. Nola Jones.
Mhm.
It's funny because I met Nola Jones and worked for Nola Jones, but not through Metro Nashville. And so it's kind of funny. And then for Susan, those of you who don't know Susan Waters, she did a presentation at Midwest a few years ago. And that's no joke. Her band programs were just fantastic. And she is
Mhm.
so knowledgeable and one of the most caring people on the planet. And like I said, how, and that's, I guess, keep going. You're bringing up this network. How important has this network become to you? You've mentioned the family network. You've mentioned the band director network. How important have those become? And now,
Oh,
how they,
it's everything. I mean, right now, if I got on my little phone and text out, "Hey guys, I need this is happening. Can anybody help me?" Blah blah blah. There would be 5 responses in the 30 minutes that I'm like, "Let me help you. I can do this. I can help you do that. I'll help you understand that." And a really good example of that is during COVID is when they're like, "Laura, call David." And I'm like, "David, I don't know you and I'm a spaz and I really need your help." And we were on the phone, well, on the computer for like 2 hours and you were teaching me stuff. It's that kind of bond I think you have to have in order to be successful. I do not understand people who do not want to build a culture of help and band directors around them. Um, some I hate to use the analogy of football, but coaches don't want to help coaches because they want to beat each other's teams. But we go to each other's rooms, we go to each other's houses, we meet for dinner, we try to help each other, we call each other, we text each other, we send things to each other. And that kind of culture, I think, is helping all of us because there I keep going back to my fault of not understanding and doing technology, but sometimes I think I get mad at myself because I don't know how to do these things, but I can call I've already called her today, call a friend who works in my cluster of schools and say, "Help me. I don't understand this." And she'll go, "Girl, I got you." And that is her catchphrase. "Girl, I got you." And she, and so she'll be like, "Look, it's really easy. Go here, do this, and do this." And then she'll call me every once in a while, and it has absolutely nothing to do with anything about technology. She goes, "But how did you do that? Or how did you figure that out?" And I'm able to help her because I've been there, done that. I've been teaching close to 30 years, if not right over 30 years, and I've I've been there, done that. So I might not understand their not PowerPoints anymore, whatever you call them, their slides and their computer stuff, and they do all these different things, and I might not understand that, but my kids played on the second day of school. And they're like, "What'd you do today?" I'm like, played our instruments. That's what we did. We played our instruments today." And so it's we all help each other so much. And I think back to if I'd had all these people in 1992 when I started, you know, I wonder how different it would be, how different of a teacher I would be because those people just weren't there and communication was not as easy as it is now. So
no,
I
we,
love the
we,
people here.
we forget that those of us who taught back in 92, yes, I was one of them, that we didn't really have the internet. It was like, and we didn't have computers. I remember
We
getting
didn't
my
have
first
cell phones.
We didn't have email. Oh, the good old days of the no email. But you brought up something, and like I said, you said something that speaks near and to my heart. Sometimes I feel like we covet the top 10% of programs. The ones with the budgets, the ones with the ultra, the ones that are not every program is that. And if you think about it, I think 90% of the programs are more in a situation where they don't have necessary access to resources. And one of my kindred spirits has become the smaller program or the small program, because what's out there is trying to, and that's my belief in being a teacher. I want to be a part of where I can give of myself that may be in a spot that necessarily might not have it, because I think that's a special calling. And we talked about it with the Eberts last week. There's a different classification of band leaders. Some of the people are great at academic version of band. Some of us are builders. Some of us are and I think it speaks to all of us to network, talk amongst ourselves, because
Mhm.
I've gotten all the greatest ideas just through conversations like this. Because I think to myself, I know I will admit it, I don't have the best maternal instincts with my band, so I kind of have to rent them out sometimes. Like, hey, what's a good idea? It can be, like you said, providing food for the kids, just to make it a happy place. And I've learned some of these things from talking to people like you. Like, maybe what's a memorable thing that you've done with your kids lately, or even last year? What's one of those things that you did outside of band that made a huge impact on your band?
Um, oh, wow, that's a
You do so
I
much. I'm
think
just saying.
I think that no, I think one of the biggest things that my kids I don't that's a hard one. Wow.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Um,
ask hard questions.
yeah, that was a hard question. I don't hesitate to celebrate other people in our school. One of my favorite people in our whole school, I love Mr. Fred. He is our custodian, and he's the most gentle spirit. He is kind, he is caring. He's just a great human being. And a couple years ago, it was Christmas, and the kids we all love Mr. Fred. So my 8th graders got together and they gave him a Christmas present. And it was just a red flannel shirt, and he would wear that shirt and the kids would be like, "Looking good, Mr. Fred." And we celebrated that we all loved Mr. Fred. There was a time where it was counselors week and we wanted to recognize and celebrate our counselors. So we took 20 minutes at the end of class and we made posters that told Miss Green and Miss Cross how much we appreciated them and how much we loved them. Um, to me, that it goes back to just being a good person again. And I am not 1,000% caught up on, okay, we've got to do this, we got to play this, and it's got to be absolutely right, and it's got to be. I want them to experience school and have fun and remember. Yeah, they went to CPA. Yes, they got a superior, but man, that pizza was good after that concert. And the cake and the donuts that the parents brought us. Oh wow, they remember that. They remember going to solo and ensemble and getting those medals. Oh my gosh, wearing those little, medals for days afterwards. They remember just little stuff like that and being celebrated in front of the whole school. Um, Craziest things in the world. Halloween. We have a Halloween concert and the kids get to wear a costume. Some of them don't really have costumes, but we make stuff up for them and they have the best time. So many of the kids can't afford like proper concert apparel and, all blacks and dresses and tuxes and all that kind of stuff. So we wear costumes at Halloween, and at Christmas we wear ugly Christmas sweaters. And it's little things like that that I think, yeah, they're good little musicians. They do. I mean, I don't. I'm not a person that celebrates myself much. I don't like to do that.
Speaking of
But my
Susan Park Waters, you just got a little shout out there that Laura is the absolute best. I know you're listening now,
Hey
Susan
Susan.
Park Waters. Whoo! Talk about a dynamo. Do you have any traditions though? Like, it's funny you said that about taking care of the custodian. Just someone in our audience needs to hear this, but order your medals now. Just put the purchase order in now. Don't forget. That's always one of those crazy things I always tell people. Go in August and get everything for the year that you think you're going to forget, and just do it now. Put your transportation in, put your orders for medals in, put your purchase orders for festivals in,
So
get
much
it all done now.
paperwork.
Oh my gosh. To you young teachers out there, find a mentor just to handle the paperwork. Just oh my goodness. But you say that, I always say this too, is like our secretaries, our custodians, I
Mhm.
take care of them flat out, and they take care of
Absolutely.
me flat out. It is beyond an obsession to make sure that they have the things that they need to get things done. Like one of my traditions that I've created at my current school. I don't know how it came to be, but there's so many. There's teacher day, administrative assistant day. There's so many days that go on that it gets. I have finally the front office secretaries. We have breakfast burrito day, that I bring breakfast burritos. It's become our little tradition that once a day you can pick the day of the year. We're gonna have breakfast burritos because at some point we just need to celebrate that we enjoy each other's company and that we take care of each other. And that's I always say this. I may be doing the worst job on the planet. And I thank my supervisor for this because he understands this. I'm giving you 100%. Even if it feels like it might, like I just don't get this, but I'm giving you 100%, and I'll do it better. But I'm doing the best that I can. I hear that same thing from you. Like you say that about technology, but it's only true to the point of, once you capture something and move it forward. And, I learned this. Who knew that you had to connect the microphone to your computer today? But it's just one of those things. We learn. But I give 100%. But sometimes, wow,
Well, I think
my fun.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
but so many people are not willing to be vulnerable like that, I think, and when all that came down with technology and we had to do this and had to do that, you've gotta say, "I need help. I need somebody to teach me how to do this," and I literally went to my principal's office during COVID, and we sat there, and she put this thing up on the TV, the screen, and she taught me how to do this, this, and this, and this, and I said, "I really am sorry that you're having to do this for me," but she's like, "Well, somebody's gotta teach you how to do it so you can teach somebody else how to do it," and I people are really scared to put themselves out there or to be vulnerable or to get involved in their school. I really, I run around my school a lot. I like the people there. I like the activities we do. I like the dress up days. I just think, it really puts the kids more at ease when they see it and they understand that you're a person just like they are. Um, and I think people genuinely, you wanna celebrate that people are doing a good job and having a good time, and do I always get everything exactly right? Absolutely not. No way. Do I always get every paper turned in or assignment turned in that I'm supposed to turn in? No. But my principal is like you said, my principal knows I'm working hard and she supports me. I haven't given her a shout out. She really does support me. Um I got a good one in her, so I'm gonna keep her.
It's my final comment, and I'm going to keep saying it
Mhm,
over and over. People remember you for how you make them feel, and that has to be
mhm.
a driving force with kids, adults, anywhere. That I always say this: administrators aren't always the enemy, kids aren't always the enemy, aren't are the enemy, parents aren't always the enemy, and the converse is true too. Sometimes they're our friends, or like I said, we have to build relationships. It is the key. All right, you ready for
Yeah.
the next scary comment? This is
Yeah.
my favorite one. We've run out of time. It's not my
Oh,
favorite comment. I'm just saying it goes so super fast. So to
it
our
does. It
listeners
does
out
very
there,
fast.
um, Laura's email is laura.shepherd. So this is Shepherd is Shepherd. For some reason, that's a hard word for me. Laura.shepherd at mnps.org. So laura.shepherd at mnps.org. But I always say to all of our listeners and our watchers, email these people, even just to say amazing, or give me some of your ideas, because like I said, I have no original ideas. I think I've stolen every single thing that's ever given me success, and I just work on it until it works for somewhere for me. So before we go today, before Laura Shepherd says goodbye, any advice, final thoughts, something about culture? You are the queen of culture, I will say that. What is Laura Shepherd's parting words for our audience today? Final thoughts.
Don't don't be afraid to try different stuff. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to ask a first year teacher for help because they have great ideas too. They're they're closer to the kids' age than I am. So be willing to step out. It took me a long time to learn that, but be willing to put yourself out there and really try.
Well,
About it.
Laura Shepherd,
Thank you so much,
you
David. I
are
appreciate it.
a church. I appreciate you. Like I said, for someone who I've never actually met, but for someone who I've talked to a lot, thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
All right. It's a pleasure. All right, audience. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning for today's episode of Culture Before Content. I hope you've had fun today here on the Music for All podcast network, where again, we're immensely thankful to Yamaha for their continued support as our national presenting sponsor. And now, don't forget, share on your socials, tell a friend, send off this podcast to other people, let them know we're here. And guess we will see you next week. And let's hope that our culture and bonds and we make the music world a better place. Hope to see you all next week.